Hello, 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 hello. I sing songs. It is Tuesday night, the 25th, 7 p.m. on the East Coast, 4 p.m. on the West Coast, and whatever time it is on your coast. Welcome, welcome to another edition of Community Conversations with me, Ethan. As always, please say hello. Let us know you're here, where you're from. I see there's already some chat. Hi, Cash. Hi, Dorina. Good to see you. And Beth Carducci's in the house. Beth, today's your 3-month anniversary. I mean, your 3-year anniversary. That's awesome. We have to totally celebrate. That's fantastic. If you're just joining, as always, we like to wait a couple minutes before we get started. Hi, Amy Ellickson. You're watching from Wee to Wisconsin, but I call it Wee. But yes, if you're just joining us, say hello. Let us know where you're from. Always leave a couple minutes for people to get in and get situated and get settled. And then we will get started. All the gets. I'm currently in Maryland. If you're wondering why my background is different, i.e., a little more professional than the cat tree. Oh, Dorina, you're in Toronto. That's very cool. Good food in Toronto, right? Like the best food. Some of the best dumplings I've ever had were in Toronto. Q Cuberts, hi, welcome, Boston, Mass. Cash would never try to get people in trouble. He is a sweet angel. Hey, Nathan, good to see you. Hi, Dr. Fahad. I hope you're well. You lead the topic. Obviously, in the OCD spectrum of conversation, but anything within that, I follow your lead and meet you where you are. So anything that you want to talk about is perfect. It's actually 2:09 minutes after the hour. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me just get some housekeeping out of the way, and then we'll get some conversation. So with that, if you don't know me, my name is Ethan Smith. I'm a national advocate for the International OCD Foundation. The IOCDF Foundation is not a crisis hotline. If you are in crisis or ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please call the 988 Suicide Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988 or go to your local emergency room. You can also call 911. Of course, this content does not replace therapy and is educational in purpose only. We want to create a safe space and be kind and respectful to everyone. And at the end of the day, we're all here to support one another. So as a note, this is being broadcast on several social media platforms and is being recorded. So keep that in mind as we talk about all of the things that are most important to you. So with that, again, welcome. If you're just joining us, please let us know you're here. Just say hi and where you're from. That would be great. And as always, let's get jamming. We're getting started early. For those of you that are wondering, that have been here before, I am now running my own streams. There is no one in the background. Other than actually tonight, I have my wife, Katie. I saw her frowny face come up just now in the background. So, but I am running my own streams now. So if I'm a little late to post comments or things like that, I apologize. I'm kind of multitasking at the moment, but Katie is lending a hand, which is much appreciated. Ciao, Beth. Beth, are you leaving? Matt Bannister in the house. Good morning from UK Yorkshire. Good morning, Matt. Isastasia is here. Good. All of our favorite folks. Dave. Hi, Dave. Good to see you. Robert Spence. Hi, it's good to see you. All right, so let's get started. So first of all, ciao means both hi and bye. I knew that. I speak other languages. Anyway, hi Dottie. Good to see your name. So let's get started. How's everyone doing? Fill me in. Love Lana in the house. Hi, love. Eric B. It's been a minute. What's up, Eric? How's everyone doing? How's everyone feeling? Update me on all the things, and I'll give you all a moment to just kind of post thoughts and feelings in the chat. Everybody's enjoying catching up, which is fantastic. Hey, Michael in the house. Hi, Michael. Good to see you. Excited to meet at the conference. Excited to see those of you that will be at the conference coming up in just a month. We're not too far out from the in-person conference in Orlando, which is very, very exciting. So, how's everyone doing? How's your OCD? How is your mood? How is your motivation? Eric B. Oh, whoops. Okay. Eric B. Doing well, but super busy. Wedding coming up. That's right. That's exciting. Congratulations, Eric. Katie and I definitely know what that feels like. Crunch time for sure. So, sending all our love and excitement your way, and just enjoy it. Enjoy the moment. Um, Darina, 7:05 p.m. cried today over my breakup that OCD basically caused. I think that is totally valid to cry over a breakup. And Darina, if you want to dive in a little bit more and maybe support you in navigating that you're going through, we would love to talk. But am sorry for that, and I think lots of us can relate to what you're going through. Most likely, I know for me, especially in my 20s when I was really struggling with OCD before treatment. Ultimately, like when people ask me, "Oh, what's your longest relationship?" I'd always say 4 months, because 4 months in my 20s was exactly around the point that the person that I was dating and inevitably in love with would say, "So, let's take a long trip," or "Maybe we should talk about moving in," and suddenly I was like, "Oh my god, I can't hide my OCD from you if I do all that stuff," and so suddenly we would break up. And so all of my relationships for 10 years were 4 months. All of them were 4 months. And anytime it started to get serious, uh yeah. So I relate to that, but please feel free to weigh in, and let us know some more of what you're thinking. Uh Yes, Michael. Michael wrote, excited to be there and meet you too, Ethan. I last went when I was a grad student in 2001. Wow, that's amazing. A lot's changed, a lot more people. I think you're in for a real treat. That's very exciting. No IOCDF in the background. What did you? No, Amy. No, no, no. Au contraire, mon ami. I do speak other languages. This is great. Um, no, I'm running my own thing. They trust me enough to pull up my own comments. Look, there you are. Now you're gonna go away. I feel mad powerful right now. It's very stuck. Beth Carducci, a little stuck and scared of COVID. So on that note, I want you to keep in mind that this OCD thing, and I'm already repeating everything that you already know, all of you already know, but this is a journey, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And it's ups and downs. And if I think about, Beth, how all the gains that you've made in the last 3 years, where you've come from and what you're doing now, I think it is totally appropriate and okay that you know you're a little stuck right now, or maybe feeling a little scared. I think that's valid. I think things come up that we aren't expecting, and and kind of throw us for a little bit of a loop. And I think it's in these moments that we can just kind of take a breath, not stigmatize ourselves for maybe OCD, going, wait, why is OCD interfering a little bit more than I expected it to, and focus on what you have accomplished. Be super self compassionate with yourself and give yourself lots and lots of love, and just kind of breathe through it and let it be there and understand the fear. Remind yourself of all the fantastic things you've done, and maybe start again tomorrow and see, maybe what you can do differently to continue to, because you've seen the power of moving forward in your value driven life. And so that is totally okay. And same for anyone else that is going through something similar. Matt Bannister in the house. I'm doing good. Just had some downtime and feel much more refreshed and recharged. I'm so glad to hear that, Matt, because you have no energy. So I am glad that you finally are back and positive. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm so glad that you got some downtime and got to relax and enjoy. I think that's super important. And I mean, I find it really hard to disconnect or recharge. So that's definitely challenging. So I'm so glad that you did some refreshing and recharging. Dr. Fahad, and I think Saeed possibly is your last name. I apologize if I got that incorrect. What do you think self-disgust plays a role in some types of OCD? I think that's a great question. I think that self-disgust plays a large role in a lot of subtypes and symptoms of OCD, more so than others, of course. That, along with shame and guilt, um, I think it's a very common feeling and a common experience that a lot of individuals with certain subtypes and symptoms of OCD experience, and that's where self compassion comes in so much. to recognize that you are dealing with a disorder and a disease, to recognize that you are not your thoughts, to understand that, this is a multifaceted issue and you are an individual and the disorder and the disease is something completely different, and that the thoughts are involuntary and random. And although we can focus them, thoughts are thoughts, and we don't have a lot of control over the thoughts that we have or the emotions that we feel. So I think it's really important to recognize a lot of those pieces as you navigate. If you're experiencing self-disgust or other people that are, I think it's really important to keep those things in mind, because those are very common feelings to have. And I know they're uncomfortable and icky and gross. And it's not a fun feeling to have, a fun emotion to have around OCD, and can really pull you down a rabbit hole. So I think some of those things are really important to keep in mind. So one, yes, lots of folks feel self-disgust and shame and guilt and frustration, all those things. Number two, recognizing that you are not your disorder, and that you are an individual that is, struggling with something that they can't control. And three, offering yourself lots and lots of love and self-compassion, making those realizations and recognizing and making those realizations so you can move forward. And as you move forward and make those connections, on your own, and really start to engage and believe in them, that feeling of self-disgust, that grossness that you feel, will start to dissipate. Beth Carducci, I can't help but wonder if I'm ever going to be able to go out and be free of COVID, long COVID fear. So tired of it already. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I think being tired of it is a great motivator. I wouldn't necessarily be upset with being, I think frustration breeds action. I think that if I look back at my own journey, the times that I took the most aggressive, bold action were the times I was so fed up with where my life had reached, where my bottom had gone to. I think you can, and I hate that you feel that way, Beth. I'm not going, yay, you feel that way. I'm simply offering a slight reframe, which is, a lot of motivation can come from um, being so tired of it. I think that you've taken huge strides and where you've come from. And I think you'll continue to make huge strides. It's okay to be in a mood or not feel good or be frustrated or tired of things. But, it's okay if the fear becomes a little whisper as opposed to a big scream. Maybe that fear won't go quiet at all. Maybe it will, but keep at it. It's totally worth it. And I'm proud of you for all that you've done. Eric B, stressed out but happy, doing a lot, acceptance and letting go of perfectionism. Yeah, that is definitely necessary when planning a wedding, because everything that you expect goes out the window. But it's really just about you and your partner, and following everything that you desire and want, and just being there around people that you care about, and it can be really, really special. So I think you're taking the right approach. Not that you were asking if you were taking the right approach, but you're taking the right approach. Nikki Bradley in the house, greetings. Hope you're well in Dublin. It's good to see your face. Grace in the house. Oh, we have so many great people on here. And as Bath, I was seeing Beth and Matthew at the same time. As Matt says, we're all with you, Beth Carducci, giving lots of hearts. Yes, we are. Oh, Cash. Cash wants to know, I want Ethan update too. How is Ethan? Alive, I see. Yes, I can share my story. I do have a stories a story to tell. Speaking correctly isn't one of them. So, but I just want to make sure I get to everybody's questions before um, I dive into my own sort of journey. So let me just mark that question off. I can mark things. You can mark things in this program. No one knew this because I wasn't behind the scenes, but now we're back in action here. This is very exciting. And you're welcome, Matt. And Nathan wrote, I was really hard on myself and others for a long time. I totally get. Cash wrote exactly. Shame, guilt, regret. Can definitely relate to shame and guilt. OCD sure has a way of creeping in and disrupting everything. So as I was saying, Dr. Fahad, I think everybody relates to some of what you're talking about, whether it's specifically described as self-disgust or shame and guilt and all of those things. I think we can all relate to that experience, and there are ways forward with it. Beth wrote, OCD sure does have a way of creeping in and disrupting everything. It does, but I think the most important thing that we can do is, instead of being surprised, and I make this mistake too. Instead of being surprised that it's popped up for whatever reason. I think that we can take an opportunity to go, up, there you are. Figured you come out right about now when X good thing or X bad thing is happening, and not to expect it, not to anticipate it, but to simply, when the mole pops up, to simply go, oh, okay, I figured at some point or another, I figured you'd pop back. That's totally okay with me. I'm thrilled to see you. We can coexist until you shut up. I'm not going to pay it attention. I'm not going to give into it. I'm not going to let it scare me. As I tell Katie, I'm not going to let it push me back onto the roller coaster, or I start to get looped into everything and go down rabbit holes. And I think applying that sort of reframe to life is really important, because OCD is going to pop up. It just is. And it's going to pop up when things are going really, really good. And it's going to pop up when things are not going so good. And really, our goal isn't to keep OCD from popping up. Our goal is to manage OCD when it does pop up in a way that aligns with our values, in a way that it's how we respond and react to OCD, so that we can move forward and get it to go back down to from whence it came. And that happens really effectively if you've been in a place of management and maintenance, if you have treatment skills and tools. It can be really effective to shut it down quickly and not give in. And when you don't do that, it quiets down really quickly. I know Katie and I, when we're kind of stuck on things, and then we encourage each other to just let it be there and feel icky today, in as a goal to feel better tomorrow, it tends to go away pretty quickly. And I would encourage you to do the same. Um, but it does have a way of creeping in for sure, and disrupting everything. But we do have control uh, of our focus and behavior and how we choose to respond to OCD. I'm not saying it's easy, but I think understanding that we have that power can be empowering. Valerie Andrews, it's good to see you. Uh, and Nathan wrote, I feel no guilt or shame or stigma. And I think that's great. I think it's, people experience different things with OCD, and it also depends on where you are in your own journey. So I think that's wonderful that you don't experience any of that. Can TT, Ethan, do you take any medicine to help you controlling your OCD thoughts? I do take medication. I don't typically talk about medication on here, only because I'm not a psychiatrist, and also medication is very individual. Um, a medication that works for me may not work for you. A medication that worked for you may not work for me. So I tend to steer clear of the medication conversation, only because, as much as I'd like to believe I have many degrees, um, so I will say, though, that, the combination of medications and therapy are probably the most effective approach to navigating OCD. It doesn't mean that you have to be on medication lifelong. It doesn't mean that you have to be on medication at all. But generally, when you're navigating moderate to severe OCD, some combination of medication, interventional, evidence-based therapy is really effective. And I know it was for me, and I know it was for a lot of individuals, but I also know a lot of folks that just did therapy and a lot of folks that just did medication. I think the most important thing is we should never stigmatize ourselves around medication. Oh, it's people, "Oh, you don't need medication for that. You can just get over it," or fight. It's a disease. It's no different than somebody taking their medication for diabetes or MS or cancer, or really anything else. And so I think that's important to keep in mind, is to understand we want as many tools as possible at our disposal to lead the best possible full life we can. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. So what tools at our disposal are out there to give us that life, to help us live that full life that we desire? And that's where therapy comes in. That's where medications come in. That's where exercise comes in, and mindfulness and meditation and all of those things, right? So, I think there's always things we can do to continue to find wellness in some way. And really, you just have to ask yourself what's right for you. But I just take medication, and I have been on it since I was 14 or 15. So, yeah. Um, all right. I'm just squickly. Wow, words are fun today, huh? Squickly scrolling. That's what I was going to say. Scrolling. Uh, Q Cubert, hopefully you don't mind me reading your comment. My name is Lisa, and I'm here so I can help my sister. I'm 51 and she is 49. She struggles with contamination OCD. We are currently stuck. We are talking about finding comfort in being probably uncomfortable. There we are. And being uncomfortable. She said she doesn't want to work just to live, that I don't have to do that daily, and that's not fair. Meanwhile, she ruminates about a lot and uses so much energy to do this. Well, first of all, I want to welcome you, Lisa, and welcome your sister. And please, I want to make you feel as comfortable as possible. This is as safe a space as we can create online. If you just want to listen, if you have questions, please feel free to weigh in. Navigating contamination and other subtypes of symptoms of OCD can be really, really challenging and affect in different ways. I think just by being here, that's an amazing start. And I can relate to a lot of some of what your sister is saying. So just feel free to hang out. And if you have questions directly, let us know. And otherwise, hopefully you can gain some insight here. But at the end of the day, we're just an amazing community that loves to support one another. And it can end just with that. So thank you for being here. Appreciate you. And you do have a question, which is, how do I get her to the point to want to do the work? So what we're talking about with OCD treatment is motivation, right? And it can seem really scary for a number of reasons to engage in treatment. Yeah, I don't know where you all live. I don't know if you have access to treatment providers and OCD experts that can help. There's the number one, the first line treatment for OCD is exposure and response prevention, ERP. There are other modalities of treatment that are very effective, but that is by far the most researched and most evidence-based. But there are others as well. I think that we can't force anyone to engage in treatment or do the work, as you call it. I do think it's important to help individuals recognize without making them feel ganged up on, and it's definitely a balance, and you have to feel it out. But it's definitely we don't want to make anyone feel like they're being forced to do something, because then it's not helpful. With that being said, though, I think the bigger question for your sister, if you don't mind me saying, is, are you happy with where your life is now? Are you happy with how you're navigating OCD? Are you happy? Do you feel like you're missing out on things, on values that you want to be engaging in? Or is it taking up time that you wish it wasn't? Would you like to be living a little bit different life, or a little bit better life, or the things you'd rather be doing? And if the answer is yes to all of those things, then I would say, why not check out therapy? Why not see what it's like to put in the work? You can always go back to what you're doing, and but it's really effective. I know that it can be scary to engage in therapy. It can be scary to acknowledge and admit that you have OCD. It can be scary to wonder who you are. I mean, it's very multifaceted and very nuanced, right? But at the end of the day, OCD will make your life very, very small. And I think everyone here will agree with that statement. And I think that the more we fight it, right, the better our lives get, the more full they get, the more we embrace uncertainty, the more we're willing to live with discomfort, the more we live into our values and live a full life. I know for me, I never thought I'd be living the life I'm living now. It's not perfect. You all know I share everything with you. You know when I'm struggling, you know when I'm feeling good. And I know everybody has a little bit of the same. If anything, read the comments, see individuals that, are both struggling and thriving, and a little bit of both, right? But I would ask yourself if you're happy, and if you're not happy where your life is, the work may be worth it, and I think that sometimes OCD can convince us and manipulate us into thinking it's fine. I like where I am. Leave me alone. But I think it's worth it to reflect and dig deep. Look, treatment and therapy isn't about making you do things you don't want to do. Treatment and therapy is all about supporting you, loving you, caring about you, and wanting you to live the life that you want to live in the most effective way possible. And most likely, if you're here, people care about you. Your sister cares about you, and so I think this is a great first step. You will never have to do anything that you will never be forced to do anything, I should say. And it's slow and systematic. So at the same time, as I said all that to your sister, Lisa, I would also offer, I know it can be frustrating watching a loved one struggle and suffer and all of those things. But with that, I also think that it's important for you to give them room, in this case, your sister, to kind of figure things out, offer opportunities to talk and show them, you know, resources and videos and content and things like that, and maybe make kind suggestions. But at the end of the day, it is their decision. And but hopefully, through like just being here, if they're there right now, you'll see that this is, you know, a great opportunity to really regain your life and do the things that you maybe didn't think were possible. And and just peruse the IOCDF website. There's great resources. There are great videos. You can connect with community. It doesn't even have to be about therapy and getting better in the beginning. It just can be about connection and community. And I know that's how all of us found each other as well. So hopefully that gives you some additional insight and you found that helpful. Let's see here. Aw, Beth wrote, I could watch the 2014 keynote speech you gave a million times and still cry like a baby every time I see it. Thank you so much. That means a lot. I was young. I had hair color back then. Um, Thank you, Amy Ellickson. OCD is OCD. There are different diagnostic types. Sometimes using types make it easier to talk about. Though I think types, symptoms, subtypes are really great for connection purposes. I really do. I think that you know, if I say, "Oh, I have health anxiety," and somebody else has health anxiety, "Oh my God, I have that too," and suddenly we start, you know, trading thought. There should be thought trading cards where it's like we can trade for our thoughts and it'd be super fun. But anyway, I digress. So but that's how we can relate and connect. It's like, oh my gosh, I've never met anyone that thought this too. And you learn that you're not alone. You learn that you're not the only one. You learn that there's somebody out there that's just like you, or whose OCD is just like you, not your uniqueness and individuality. And I think that's where it's important. And I think it's valid to say that there are certain subtypes and symptoms that accompany that stigma accompanies a little bit more, right? Things that are taboo, sexual, intrusive, violent thoughts, where you know, are a little less accepted or less understood by the mainstream media and the public and things like that. So maybe stigma is a little bit more uh, aggressive there. But in terms of treatment, when you're treated for OCD, uh, the treatment provider will start with the symptom that you walk in with. So if you have a fear of accidentally killing your mother, then they will start doing exposures around killing your mother. What they're really doing, though, is teaching you and giving you the foundation of exposure and response prevention. And that foundation is living an uncertain life and being able to handle any symptom and subtype. So while on the surface, it seems like, okay, I'm learning that I can deal with the discomfort around not killing my mother. And what happens many times is people go through therapy, they suddenly aren't triggered by being around their mother in this example, and then they go home and all of a sudden they're suddenly afraid that, you know, they're accidentally going to touch a kid inappropriately, or afraid they're going to kill their father, right? And then it's like, oh crap, I have to go back to therapy because now it's all different, it's all new. And the reality of it is it's still OCD. The fear is still the same. It's responding to your thought. It's being uncertain. It's you know, understanding yeah, being uncertain and all that. So it's important to understand. I like to think of treatment as a reverse Mad Lib, right? So remember Mad Libs where you have the line and it says like verb, noun, adjective, adverb. So I always like to think of ERP as a reverse Mad Lib where it's ERP is like the giant instructions on all the things to do. And then somewhere in the middle of that paragraph, that giant paragraph, is a line and it says some type symptom. And you can literally plug in anything you want. None of the instructions change. They're all the same. Doesn't matter if I put a plug in contamination, just right, religious scrupulosity, harm, sexual. It doesn't matter what it is, right? But the general life instructions of how to approach that symptom and subtype are the same. And I think that's important because as you go into life, my thoughts. I don't know about you. I can guess that my thoughts jump around all the time. I get old thoughts, new thoughts, sticky thoughts, not sticky thoughts. And to understand that they're all rooted in the same disorder and disease, to understand that I have the skills and tools to be able to navigate however OCD shows up, whatever disguise it decides to put on, is really, really empowering. And I think it's so important to know that. Now, that doesn't mean that you aren't going to need additional support. I'm not saying that you may not need to go back to therapy and like get additional thoughts and suggestions and things like that. Not saying that at all. Simply saying, though, it's so important to understand that if you've had treatment, if you have a foundation of treatment, whether it's ERP, acceptance commitment therapy, any other type of therapy. Oh, Katie pressed a button. But any type of therapy, that you are equipped to handle whatever OCD throws at you. And that is crucially important, that you understand and you know that. So you can post that now, Katie. What was it? What were we celebrating? Congratulations to Matt Bannister for becoming a certified peer support specialist. You're going to be amazing. You're going to do amazing things and help so many with your knowledge and capacity. Agreed. Big virtual round of applause to Matt for becoming a certified peer specialist. We're super excited for you, and we already love you in the community as an advocate. And I think you're going to continue to do great things as a peer support specialist. So congrats, Matt. Worth pointing out, Phyllis wrote, Q Cuberts, my sis, has been in my corner all my life as far as OCD goes. And I think that's amazing. I think support is really, really important. And Phyllis, you may have already commented, but maybe you could throw out some ways in which your sister has supported you. Probably better than the insights I gave, but hopefully. So I know I tell you my story, so I'm going to try to get to as many questions as possible. I can tell I'm 15 minutes behind. So, but real quick, Nathan wrote, OCD robbed me of some things that I can never get back. And I want to touch on that a second. Oh no. I lost where I was. Sorry. All right, I'll have to find it in a minute. Sometimes the comments do weird things in this, and there you are. Okay. So I think that this can be a really tough subject, and I think this can be a really sensitive subject. And I really struggled with this quite a bit right when I got better. And I would say that from time to time, I still really struggle with this. I think it's natural. I think that OCD does rob individuals of a lot of things, when you're struggling and suffering and going through it. And I've talked to people that found treatment in 2 years. I found treatment in 17 years, and had it for 31 years. And I met individuals that didn't find treatment until their 50s, 60s, 70s, So I'm sure we've all got our stories of things that we've lost or never experienced and never get back. So there were things in my life, I can only speak from my own experience. There were things in my life that I really, really, really wanted to do, knew I was missing out on, didn't understand why, because I didn't have a diagnosis at the time or didn't have the right treatment. And I was really challenged. It made getting better difficult because if I was still sick, then I never could have done it to begin with. But when I got better, it almost felt like a slap in the face. Like, oh my God, you mean I could have gotten better and not missed all this stuff? Like, what the hell? I was really angry. I don't know, I've talked a lot about this, but thank you for bringing this up, Nathan. I was really angry. And I think my anger compounded when I got better, just because I was like, oh, not only did I miss this important stuff, but it seems like a waste that I had to miss it. So navigating that is really challenging. So star it, Katie. She's not allowed back here after today. She's been banned. I'm just kidding. I think that when I first got better, I was so angry at the things that I missed. I lived the next 10 years trying to catch up, trying to make up for everything. And while some of those things I couldn't get back, I wanted to stay in college and graduate with the people that I had gotten to know, and I had to drop out because of OCD. I wanted to go to sleepaway camp as a kid and have those experiences. I can't go back and be 8 years old again. High school was horrendous for me. I hated it. I was supposed to be the most fun time of your life, and there were so many things I couldn't do or was so scared to do or so anxious doing. And I mean, just the list goes on and on and on and on. 4-month relationships, right? All of those things. So there's the things that you can try to get back, the things that you can't get back. First of all, there's not a time machine. I wish there was sometimes, but there's just not. And so we have to embrace the reality of where we are today. And that reality can be really painful. And I think that's where giving yourself a lot of self-compassion and validating your feelings around this is really important. Your feelings around your anger, your frustration, your sadness, your pain around the things that you've missed in your life are really important to validate because they are so, so valid. They are real and they're painful. And sometimes when we're living life, we're reminded of the things we missed all the time. Just going out in public and seeing, I feel this way all the time when I see 16-year-olds, like, whatever, mom, I'll see you later. And they go to yogurt store and whatever. And I'm like, I see them playing and having a good time and being independent. Like, I get so frustrated that I miss that. Right. And those are things I can't get back. So I think, Nathan, that, and anyone else that's relating to this, I think any of us that have struggled with OCD are mourning things that we've lost. And I think that's valid. However, there's a certain point at which constantly giving into those feelings, wishing we could go back and change things, works very much against us. We start losing the present. We start losing the opportunities we have today and moving forward. And that's where accepting the reality of our situation, as shitty as it may have been, as shitty as it may be, and looking forward to what we can accomplish, what we can do moving forward. We may have missed it before, but what can we do now? I know it sounds a little cliche, but it's so important to do. I will tell you that when I got better at 31, I spent from 31 to about 42 trying to catch up to the life I thought I should have, where I should be, all of those things. And I really exhausted myself to the point where I was 40, 41 and asked myself, what am I doing? I was exhausted and tired and not where I wanted to be and frustrated and angry and really wishing that, and granted, there were lots of things in my life that were beautiful. I'd found this gorgeous community. I love advocating, and it was the moment that I started really, really embracing self-compassion, really embracing the art of self-compassion and really starting to study it and really meeting myself where I was and not judging it, to say to myself, I'm 41 years old. I don't have a partner. I'm not married. I'm not financially where I want to be. I missed all of these things, but I'm going to be okay with that. I am going to meet myself where I am in this moment today and choose to move forward, whatever that may look like, and let go of all of the things that I thought I was supposed to be, or that I should have been, or that I could have been. Because in reality, the life that I had imagined for myself is just that. It's just imagination and thoughts. As my therapist used to so eloquently say when I would tell her, but if I hadn't had OCD, I would have done this and I would have been here and I would have done this by now. And she would always say, or you would have gotten hit by a bus by you were 22 and killed. And I'm like, valid. So that always kind of killed my sort of fantastical belief in who I would have been, what I could have been without OCD. But the gist of what I'm telling you is the minute I accepted myself for who I am in this moment, who I'm made up of, the minute my life started to flourish in every aspect of my life. That doesn't mean that I had a seamless life without pain and suffering and that OCD became totally quiet. It simply meant that I started moving forward in really meaningful ways. And it doesn't mean that today I don't mourn the things that I've lost or mourn the things that I've missed or turn to Katie and say, God, I never had that. I wish I did. I do the other day, last weekend or whatever, we were out and I saw people doing things and I'm like, yeah, I never got to do that. That sucks. And sometimes it brings me to tears, but I can honor that emotion. I can acknowledge that emotion. I can honor and acknowledge those feelings and still say, yeah, but this is where I am today. This is what I'm doing. And I can't do anything about what I missed. I can just experience the feelings, let them be there, but I can do so much about the future. And so, Nathan, and anybody else that can relate to any of that, I so feel you on all of those things. I deeply feel you on all of those things. But I think the emotions are valid and the feelings are valid, but I encourage you to start to embrace self-compassion, start to love yourself truly, not demonize yourself, not stigmatize yourself, and start to look forward at what's ahead. Well, I wish I didn't have OCD. I can truly say, again, a cliche, that I am grateful for my experiences because I would not be who I am if it weren't for them. I would not be where I am if it weren't for them. Had I never dropped out of college, had I missed out on so many amazing things as a kid, I can't say that I'd be here, right? And I don't know what life I would have had, and maybe it would have been 1,000 times better, but I can't imagine that. I really can't. I think my life is pretty amazing, even with the ups and downs and the pains and the sufferings and the pings and the pangs and all the poongs. So I went on a little rant, but I don't know that we've talked about that. And I think that's an important thing. So I look forward to reading your comments, and thanks for letting me go off on that. Katie, have you been starring the questions? You can just nod because I can see your face. Okay, let me just go to the starred questions then. I said I would update. There's so many good questions and so many new people, though. I really don't know that I want to update on myself. Let's see if there's time. So real quick, Kathleen can't find any therapists that do ERP. Really need that therapy. Absolutely, Kathleen. Let me just Google real quick. If I don't know if you know about the resource directory on the IOCDF website, but this is a great place to start. I'll put this in the chat for you. There you go. That should come up. That should have posted. Did that post, Katie? Okay. What? I can't hear you. You're just pointing. Did it post? I thought I posted it. Oh, live 10. Okay, sorry. Wow, there's a lot of comments. You guys are amazing. Okay, great. Yeah, it's there. Perfect. Okay. So I'm just going through her starred. So if I miss anybody's questions, technically it's Katie's fault. Oh my God, now I can't do any of these without Katie. She's so fun to have back here. Oh, also, Katie will kill me. You can check out Stick with the Ick app. So helpful. Thank you, Reverend Katie. So yeah, definitely check out Stick with the Ick. It's an amazing religious scrupulosity, faith and OCD app. Huge community, amazing folks, great programming, and just ultimately community support, love, and acceptance for all faith traditions, all backgrounds, anyone and everyone. Little known fact about Katie, she started an everyone club in school where everyone was welcome. So, and it's a club. So technically, like certainly only people are supposed to be part of that club, but this is everyone. So keep that in mind as you think about downloading Stick with the Ick in the App Store and Google Play, and check it out. It is free to download and free to join the community. Let's see here. My grief, Summer, I hopefully you're still here. My grief has been popping up lately with my OCD. I'm not sure how to move forward. I've been trying to find some sort of purpose for my pain, and I don't know what that is yet. I think that's a great question, or a great statement anyway. I think that all I can tell you is it's funny because Katie has so much more insight into grief than I do. But I will tell you that in regards to experiencing grief around your OCD and not sure how to move forward, it's okay. It's okay to meet yourself where you are. It's okay to not know, and it's okay to not have a specific plan or purpose for your pain yet. It's okay to just experience it in this moment and be okay with not knowing, which is really uncomfortable. I think a place to start perhaps is, what do you love? What do you value? What do you care about? And just moving toward those things, even if you don't feel like it, and bringing the ick and the grief along with you, and just starting there. And as you move into those spaces, you will start to have clarity around what your purpose may look like. I think with OCD, we kind of want to have it figured out before we do it, right? It's like, I want to draw a map, and we're going to do a blueprint, and I'm going to have everything squared away. Oh, okay, I got my purpose now, and now I'm going to go do this thing. And a lot of times it's the doing that creates the direction. Oh my gosh, that's good. Doing creates the direction. Wow, we should write that down. Anyway, um, so I think it's okay to move forward and not quite know why you're moving forward, or move forward simply on the basis that you knew this is something that you love or something that you did love, um, and see how it makes you feel in that moment. It may not make you feel anything, and that's okay. But just getting moving forward, I think, will help in taking action toward your values may start giving you some direction, you know. Um, but sometimes also it's just about navigating through the pain, you know. The purpose, I didn't discover advocacy. Like, I didn't go into advocacy or the things that I was doing specifically looking for a purpose. I was simply wanting to make sure that people didn't suffer the way I did, and found treatment sooner. And suddenly, like, I was like, oh, people are like, you're turning your pain into purpose. I'm like, oh, wow, that's cool. But that was never my initial intention. It was simply to be like, I don't want people, what do you want, Summer? What do you feel? What's important to you? What are you passionate about? What do you care about? What have your experiences taught you, and what can you help teach others about it, or at least communicate, and maybe just start there. But I think where you are right now and just embracing that and being okay with that is a wonderful place to start. Quote, oh, sometimes it's the doing that creates the direction. Thank you, Dorina. I appreciate that. Robert Spence, good to see you. Ethan, was there anything you learned as a theater major that helped you with your OCD treatment? What a great question. So when I was in therapy, um, because at that time I was actively acting. And I mean, I had taken a break because I had completely, became non-functional, but I just finished shooting a movie. And I remember walking with a doctor, with an amazing therapist, and he turns to me, he goes, just act well. And I'm like, do what? He's like, just act like you don't have OCD. And I'm like, huh, that's interesting. That's interesting. And then I felt like I kind of been doing that my whole life. I was acting like I didn't have it. And meanwhile, I think that, you know, acting and being in theater is all about being your vulnerable self. When you boil acting down to it, it's how do I be the most truthful version of me that I can be, in a specific moment. And I think there's a lot to glean from that as it relates to OCD therapy, because I think that OCD very much steals our identities. It covers them up, it takes them away, and finding your authentic self is challenging, sort of under the rubble of OCD. Um, and I think even we can be afraid of our authentic selves, and who we are, the truth of who we are. Um, we can start to frame OCD as an advantage almost. Well, it's like, well, with this, I can maybe not do this and not feel this pressure and blah, 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 blah. And who am I really without OCD? What am I? What do I look like? And it can be really scary when you're acting to go to those places, those deep corners of your mind and your heart and your soul. It can be really scary. Um, but in doing so, you discover who you are, you learn who you are, what you're made of. And I think that relates deeply to this treatment and OCD treatment as well. Well, it's the same thing. I think that it's all about being willing to go there, being willing to shed your OCD skin, being willing to be vulnerable, being willing to be scared, um, and and let who you are bloom and come forward from out from under the OCD crap. And it takes time, but I think that thinking about, and also, by the way, it's not even that I didn't necessarily recognize myself as I came forward into myself. I knew OCD for so long, as you're born with it, you exhibit it your whole life. Like, that's what I knew I was, at least until I learned that you're not your OCD. So even simply just, letting me come up was discovery and observation, and sort of all of these tools and things that we do in acting and theater as well. Ultimately, I think the willingness to honor your authentic self, the willingness to experience whatever that looks like, even if you don't know who that is or uncomfortable with any of those things, are sort of key tools that we can take with us into treatment as well. It's a great question. Love that. Um, Irina, good to see you. Looking forward to the conference. My partner's thinking of joining, and my friend is wanting to bring her child who's 12 years older or something for family and other natural supports. Absolutely. There's a whole family and friends track. There is lots of kiddos there, great age to go. There's an young adult track. There's a teen track. There's a kids track. There's an activity room. And I think it's really cool. For young kids, 12, 13, 14, 8, it's usually the first time they've ever met someone with OCD. And it's great to see the kiddos running around and just being themselves, being their authentic selves, right? Not being afraid that people will judge them, not being afraid of what they're going to say, and just being able to meet others that they feel like are just like them in so many ways. And so if you go to the OCD conference, I think it's iocdf.org/conference. I think that's what it is. Um, you can look at the programming and all the exciting things there is for families, for kids, for caretakers, for loved ones, for individuals with OCD, for experts, everything in between. So, yeah, there's the website. Thank you, Katie. Oh, yeah, okay. Michael in the house. Is it possible to be kind with the grief and allow it to have some part of your story alongside the other sides of you that are finding purpose? Sort of how the movie Inside Out, sadness was sidelined for a long time until it has its own story to tell and really open things up. Thanks for ruining the movie. No, I'm kidding. Hope that's helpful. I think grief and OCD go hand in hand all the time, and making some meaningful story out of it is so important. I love that. I agree with you, Michael. I think that's great. Um, and I think 100%. I think that I hope that's what I alluded to, because I think you're spot on. I think it's never about suppressing these other emotions or feelings. It's about understanding why they're there, and letting them be there, and then whether we give them space to tell a story or not is sort of determined, right? I think it's important to acknowledge that, some feelings are false, and that's why feelings are so tricky with OCD. It's like sometimes lots of folks feel guilt, right? I feel guilty that I had this thought. I feel guilty that I didn't pray. I feel guilty that I'm not doing such and such right. I feel guilty. And in those spaces, like, we always want to validate feelings, but guilt is when you did something bad. That's literally the definition. And yet, so why are we feeling guilt? Is it guilt because of OCD? And if it is, what kind of story do we want to tell with that? And so I think in this case, I totally agree with you, but I personally don't think it is a situation where every feeling sort of deserves its own story. I think every feeling can be validated, but I also think we have to ask ourselves what feelings are authentic and true, not in a compulsive way, but understanding that OCD is so good at making us feel things that may not be true. Um, it's that emotional reasoning, which is essentially, feeling a feeling that's associated with a thought, and then assuming that feeling is real because you felt that feeling. I feel guilt, so the thought that I did something bad must be true. I feel afraid, so the thought that, I have a tumor may be true. I feel X, and we have to recognize those thoughts and those feelings for what they are, and kind of call them out, because I think that playing with our emotions and feelings is one of OCD's most effective tools, and its weapons against us. But with that being said, I think the grief and the pain and everything that we talked about Nathan, and what we've lost, and all of those things absolutely deserve their own space in our journey, with their own story. So thank you, Michael. I appreciate that comment. Um, wow, this is awesome. The start thing. But now I don't get to read all the comments between. Ethan, can you remember your first obsessive thought when you were a child or at your teenage years? Yeah. So my first obsessive thought, I can't remember which came first. I was in kindergarten. Well, I remember being 3 and 4 and worrying that my mom something bad was going to happen to my mom. I remember that earliest, like having this constant worry, that something bad was going to happen to her. My first, like, truly obsessive, thought that started interfering with my functioning started in preschool. And there was an eclipse, a total eclipse that was happening. And in class, they were showing us that we weren't allowed to look at the sun. You shouldn't look at the sun. And they explained what was going to happen. And this is the 80s, mind you. So we didn't have the glasses. So they were showing us they were building this thing so it cast the shadow and we could see the thing going over the thing. And that's science talk. I'll fill you in later on that. But and how you shouldn't look at the sun or you'll go blind. And my first thought was like, oh my God, my mom's going to look at the sun and go blind. Holy crap. This is terrible. It's like worst day ever. So I came out of school and I told my mom, like, you can't look at the sun tomorrow because you're going to go blind. And she was like, it didn't matter what she said. She could not reassure me. She's like, I'll wear a, we talked about wearing a sign around her neck. I was like, nope, I have to be with you. I have to stay with you all day long and make sure you don't look at the sun. And so I stayed home. I didn't go to school the next day, and we didn't look at the sun. And that was my first obsessive thought. So there you go. Started him early, started him young. Um, so 7:56 p.m. We have a few minutes left. I'm going to update everyone if you don't mind. So if you've been joining me of late, I've been sharing about my health anxiety and sort of medical journey about what I've been going through. If you're new, welcome. In short, they unexpectedly found a mass in my stomach at the beginning of March while I was there for something else, and I have health anxiety, and a fear of a mass or a tumor has been my like highest OCD fear ever since I can remember. Other than the eclipse, I guess I remembered that first. But so needless to say, like living with that uncertainty and the doubt of what it is, not knowing what it is, and how to deal with it has been really challenging over the last 3 months. It's been up and down, as different doctors didn't know and maybe knew and sort of knew and weren't sure and then weren't sure and maybe so, and let's wait 3 months. So long story short, last where we left off is I was waiting 3 months to have a follow-up MRI to see if they could discern anything new. When we last left it, it was kind of 50-50. They weren't sure if it was benign, if it was malignant, but they did feel it was, you know, manageable if it were malignant, although hard to get to. They couldn't biopsy it because of the location of where it is in my stomach. It's wrapped up in colons and veins and all kinds of exciting things. And that would be me. That's totally on Ethan brand. We can't tell you what it is for certain. So we're going to have to wait and see. Like, of course, I would have that tumor that you can't just biopsy and go in. Anyway, so I had an MRI a week ago last Friday, and then last week I had the oncologist appointment. And aside from it completely disappeared, which I was hoping for, it was the best news it could be, which is essentially that it didn't really change, and what changes it did have aired on the side of benign and not being cancerous or malignant. And so the doctors feel very good about that. And so they've now asked, I'm going to rescan in 6 months. And I have no symptoms. I have no side effects. I have no pain. It was completely a fluke that they even found this thing, and it's small. But I will tell you, as somebody living with OCD and having uncertainty and all the scary thoughts coming up about, something being real, and I have too, Nathan. I've been blessed with pretty good health in my life as well. And but this being very real, and then how do I manage very real? What's interesting is like what was very real was that there was a mass and they didn't know what it was, right? That was the reality of the situation. In my mind, my OCD was screaming, no, your reality is you have 2 months to live and you better get yourself in order. Like that was the constant screaming. You're not going to have a future. You're not going to have this. You're not going to have that. When in reality, we don't have any certainty around anything. It's like literally nothing. But this seemed like the biggest threat to my life at the moment. And so, but the reality versus the fear became very clear for me. And I was able to navigate the 3.5 months. I would probably, outside of getting better from OCD, would call the last 3.5 months my biggest win ever with OCD and health anxiety and all of those things that come from that. And thank you for all the love in the chat. I really appreciate it. I was very happy as well. But I would say that was my biggest win by far. I've dealt with some things. Obviously, we've all go through things, but my ability to move forward, acceptance commitment therapy was a huge asset to me and a huge weapon to me moving forward. But really just embracing the scary thoughts, especially as we're doing fun things that are meaningful. I'm planning for. It's hard to plan for your future when your OCD is like you're gonna die. So, I mean, I kind of rediscovered myself and my strength and how incredible these skills and tools are and how powerful they can be. And so, that's where I'm at, and it worked out, and I'm so grateful for that. So I just wanted to share quickly with you the latest. And so, yeah, so we're moving on, we're moving forward. And, is it something that's going to kind of hang over my head from time to time? Sure. but I'm okay with that. Life isn't perfect. It's not, and people have it. We just have to just be here, love ourselves, show self-compassion, do the best we can. Um, so anyway, and Eric B wrote, I recently had an event that didn't do any damage, but it is often called a wake-up call. I've had a lot of testing and it's helping with the uncertainty, but I've had to accept that I may never, yep, know exactly what happened. Yeah, I don't think and I may never know what this is, but I will tell you, aside from the skills and tools, I'm one that when I struggle, I kind of, I hide, I kind of shelter in place. Um, but I really turn to friends in this case. I turn to the community, I turn to friends and the power of support. Good night, Phyllis. The power of this community and support and being here in the comments, it's just everything. So uh, I'm going to go back though and read all your comments afterwards. Thank you so much for just the amount of comments and the advocacy and the love and the great questions. I hope you found this helpful. I loved being just us and Katie in the background. And I can't wait to keep doing this and supporting everyone. This has become an incredible community, and I'm so grateful for all of you. You inspire me all the time and hold me accountable. And you have no idea how much that means to me. So real quick, tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern, you can join Ask the Expert, Dr. Liz and Chris, for a special Pride edition. That's at 12 p.m. Eastern. So be sure to check that out. Also, I said this before, the 29th Annual OCD Conference coming up. This is for the entire OCD community coming together. You can register today at iocdf.org/OCDCon, or you can go to conferences, and that will have everything we have going on. And finally, if you want to be notified when we're online, you can subscribe or follow on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, LinkedIn, the New York Times, the New York Post. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, everywhere. And you'll get notified and jump on. So with all of that, thank you so much for spending your Tuesday evening with me. As always, last but not least, you could always email the foundation at info@iocdf.org if you have any questions, any comments, any want to reach me, whatever you need. We are here to support in any way that we can. With that, have a wonderful evening. Stay vigilant, stay safe. Don't let feel the feels. Don't let OCD off the hook. And I will see you 2 weeks from tonight. Good night.